Welcome to another episode of Under the Strap. I'm your host, John Rathouz. In this week's episode, we've got Graham Curry on the pod. Graham is the founder of Handicaddie, a revolutionary app that is connecting caddies and golfers all over the world. The Irishman, who has been caddying since he was a teenager, details what the app can do while we chat about all things Irish golf. He reveals his favorite under-the-radar course in Ireland and the best time of year to book your trip. Graham is an up-and-coming influencer in the game of golf, and we've got him on the pod for the next 30 minutes. Just enough time to down a Guinness or two. This Under the Strap podcast is presented by Therabody. If your muscles are sore or tight, help them relax with the Therabody Theragun. The #1 massaging tool on the market and incredibly easy to use, the Theragun is designed to help you play longer and get more out of your body. So do what caddies and players on tour do and treat your muscles. Go to therabody.com/caddy, CADDIE, to get your Theragun today, starting at just $199. Now it's time for another episode of Under the Strap. All right, welcome to another episode of Under the Strap. Pleasure to be joined today by Graham Curry, founder of Handicaddie. Really cool company. They're digitizing golf caddying from the grassroots level. Graham, thanks for joining me.
John, absolute pleasure to be on. I've been an avid follower of the Caddie network on all social media platforms. I think you guys do a brilliant job on Twitter of promoting yourself as well. And I've been engaged in your content for a while. So I think this was inevitable for me to come on. But yeah, absolute pleasure to be on and looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks, man. We're a big fan of yours as well and what you're doing. And really cool. You made the trek across the pond this week. You're in New York City, I guess. How's your trip been so far?
Yeah, it's been unbelievable. So we actually arrived in Boston on Friday night. So it was perfect timing for St. Patrick's Day weekend. And it was quite the welcome in Boston. They treated me like royalty over there. So we went up to the St. Patrick's Day parades and there was guys passing me shots of drink. So they were clearly keen to see a fellow Irishman join the parades.
I can't think of a better way to start your weekend in America than
Yeah.
going to St. Patrick's Day in Boston. I mean, that's incredible. And you're authentic as they come, so I'm sure you were a big celebrity.
Yeah, that's it. Everyone was telling me what percentage they were Irish, and I was like, I'm 100% Irish. So there you go.
Yeah, you didn't have to wear the T-shirt. It's interesting. I caddied for Seamus Power for 4 years, so I got to
Oh,
know
really?
Ireland, real well and the culture and stuff. And he would always tell me about how St. Patrick's Day is a little bit more low key back home than it is in the U.S. Not wearing the green and everything. It's kind of interesting. I never realized that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's true. Like we were telling the people in Boston, like it's not St. Patrick's Day week over in Ireland. It's more St. Patrick's Day, which is quite ironic because you think it'd be more of like an intense celebration back home, but you guys know something we don't. You guys celebrate it unbelievably well. So I'm gonna have to come over here for Paddy's Day more often.
Yeah, you guys do a pretty good job 365 days a year,
That's
I'd
true.
say. So, hey, where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I am from the very north tip of Ireland. So for anyone that has played golf in Ireland, I'm from a small town called Castle Rock, which has a golf course. That will be sort of like the main attraction of Castle Rock. And then you have a loop of courses. So you have Royal Portrush, which was the British Open venue in 2019. And then you have a golf course called Port Stewart. So there's like a triad of golf courses up in the north coast that I would have grown up playing. So naturally, growing up in an environment like that, you become obsessed with the game of golf. So that was like my little route into caddying was just because it's so ingrained in the culture up there to actually get involved in golf. I picked up my first bag like a lot of youngsters do when they're 13, 14 with no expectation or no clue of how it would go. But it turned out to be probably one of the best things I ever did. So that's, I guess, how I got into the game.
That's interesting. That was one of my questions. And what's cool is that there's kind of a contrast between, growing up around golf in Ireland and then in the U.S. I mean, I feel like in Ireland, if you were to go to a pub and tell someone you were a caddy, everybody, no matter what they do, would know. I mean, everybody in the town knows where the golf course is. They know all
Yeah.
about golf. It's just it's just such a part of Irish culture.
Yeah, it's a thing in Ireland we call small town mentality. So everyone knows everyone, and there's sort of a running joke in Ireland, like you would meet someone in the town and you would say, "Oh, do you know this person?" And they're going to have mutual friends without doubt. So you can always find a warm welcome pretty much wherever you go if you just say, "I'm a caddy, I'm part of this golf club." And to be honest, even for visitors as well, like we're always very accommodating. And we're keen to make Ireland one of the best golf destinations in the world to play. Um, I'm probably a bit biased, but I think some of the golf courses there are exceptional. We have some of the top links courses in the world. But ultimately, it's about the visitor's experience. So we want that to be the best, and I think caddying is a crucial part of that. Just with the crack in the course, and also giving people insights into where actually to go after the round for a few beverages.
Yeah, no, that's a great point there. And I had a chance to go over 2 summers ago, and my wife came in an unbelievable week there at Lahinch for the Irish Open.
Awesome.
And, would love to talk about more of these golf courses you have there because they're so
Sure.
good and there's so many ones that people don't quite even realize exist. And definitely it's just a must. It's a must trip. You mentioned that about the caddying, though, and the crack, as you guys call it
The
there,
crack.
and just the hanging out.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about you got into it a little bit there, but the benefits you feel like of having a caddy. If you're a local Irishman, or if you're coming over on vacation, just the benefits of having a
Yeah.
caddy.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I think there's definitely something to it of getting someone with that really specific local knowledge about the course and also the local area. So you think about it, people are spending thousands of pounds to come over to Ireland for the trip. So you're going big in your hotel, your travel. But you need to also invest in your on-course experience. So having someone that knows the golf course for one. So if you hit a golf ball astray, you know where it's going to go. And also in Ireland, because of the undulation of the golf courses, there's a lot of blind tee shots. So some people stand there and have not a clue in the world where they're going to hit the ball. So it just takes a caddy who's played there for 20 to 30 years. And that's an interesting part as well. So caddies in Ireland actually tend to be members of the golf club in a lot of cases. Um, and that's great because they have walked the golf course for the last 20 or 30 years, more than likely. And young lads as well would know it very well. So I think it's just that insider knowledge, and also they're never short of a few jokes as well. So it'll lift the mood of the group as well, and it always seems to be more fun with a few caddies.
Absolutely, yeah. It adds to a whole vibe, and everybody's having a good time. I mean, when I talk to people that have gone over to Ireland or Scotland, they come back and you talk to them about their trip. I mean, they always have a caddy story.
Yeah,
And it makes their trip that much better. I guess as you're over here in the U.S. and you're kind of understanding the U.S. market a little bit, it's a little bit different over here. I mean, I feel like
yeah,
Ireland golf is a lot more approachable for everyone. You mentioned, I mean, the caddies are members at their clubs. Like that's a completely different thing over here. Although you do
yeah,
have some access for caddies at certain places where they get to play and they are encouraged to play.
yeah,
I guess what have you found? And I want to get into your product specifically, but just what have you
yeah.
found generally in comparing, the caddying in Ireland and Scotland versus the U.S.
Sure. Yeah, so this is based off not a lot of data, but I was up to two clubs yesterday. So it was Beacon Hill and Navesink. I probably butchered the pronunciation of the second one. But it was interesting. Yeah, so they obviously private clubs across here. You have maybe three or 400 members at a club, and they're sort of recurrently booking caddies. Um, but there seems to be similarities in the case that caddies are sole contractors. They're sort of independent from the golf club as per se. From the product of what we're working in the UK, there seems to be some sort of you can transition that to US market and it can adapt. So it's been encouraging. I've gained some great feedback from the clubs I went to yesterday. So it's encouraging to see that the app we're working on for the UK and Ireland is also transferable to over here.
Yeah, I was kind of checking out the website and I have a pretty good idea of what the app does, and I do think that it applies, to the US market as well. Maybe in a little bit different way, or some of the features are elevated over here. I guess let's talk about it. When you talk to
Sure.
people in the pub or when you're out here telling clubs about this, what do you tell them about Handicaddie? What is it and what does it do?
Yeah, so in its very simplest form, it is first of all a tool the caddies can use to make their life better. So it's a tool the caddies can set their availability for, can find jobs on, and it's bringing the convenience of their caddying life into one singular place on a mobile phone or a desktop where they can check, this is where I'm working today, this is where I'm available. And then on the other side, we have a scheduling system for golf clubs, so they can see their entire caddy roster. They can see whenever they're available, and they can also see, all their contact details. And it's just a click of a button access to everyone in their caddy program. So, in most golf clubs, it would be mostly text messages, phone calls, which is fine, but it can be somewhat time consuming by the time you call everyone, or maybe someone pulls out and you have to replace them. Whereas our system is very flexible. So if one caddy is not available, it's just click a button and you can replace it with another caddy. So it's just tap of a button access to your entire caddy program on one digital location.
Yeah, I have a buddy that's a caddy master out on the East Coast there in Pennsylvania, and he actually came
Cool.
up caddying at Marion. And I have a friend that's caddy out at Pebble Beach, and you talk to these guys that kind of caddy more locally, and they always talk about that convenience factor of like, and I
Yeah,
think we're at this moment right now where we're kind of going from the old school way of doing it into the new school, and it's the Handicaddie has a great answer for caddy masters and caddies to kind of bridge into the 21st century, so to speak, and convenience is such a big part of it.
for sure. Yeah, it's an interesting transition to go because I'm all for like the tradition of caddying as well. I think it's a beautiful art, and there definitely is an art form to it. But in the sort of convenience side and the opportunity side for caddies, I think there's a little gap there for them to be able to sort of set their availability. And even in the clubs I talked to yesterday, they were actually collaborating between their caddy programs, so they would share like 10 caddies between the golf clubs. So one of the pros there suggested a great idea, which was like, how can we share our caddy pools sort of on one digital app where if we're really stuck one day, we can pull caddies in. And it's more connectivity, I think, in the industry. So like golf clubs are more in touch with each other to help each other out as well.
Talk a little bit about the matchmaking aspect. I kind of
Sure.
garnered that was kind of a feature, kind of picturing a group of my buddies going over to
Yeah.
Ireland and getting on your app or
Yeah.
booking through the golf course, and the golf course kind of saying, "Hey, choose from these guys." I guess what's your vision on the matchmaking side of things?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was our ultimate goal whenever I started out. So I started thinking about this app when I was probably 19. And my initial thought was there's like a million golfers coming across to the UK and Ireland every year, but they have no insight into the quality of the caddy, who the caddy is. So my initial thought was, could we create this matchmaking service where golfers coming across have insights into the caddies that are available at each club, could see potential reviews on them, and then essentially choose them for their round. And then on the caddy side of it, we want to create this open marketplace where if you're a caddy, you have complete freedom to travel wherever you want, work wherever you want, and build a portfolio of work. Because it's sometimes frustrating for a caddy. You might be the best caddy, but you might not be best friends with a caddy master, and they might prioritize other people for jobs, which is annoying. And there's sort of that inherent bias in the industry as well. But we're trying to create more opportunities for caddies at its core. So we want to allow them to travel more, get more jobs, and then if we can provide better experiences for players coming across to the UK and Ireland as well, through seeing, oh, he's Graham, he's a 4.5 star caddy, he's available today, great. Let's book it. So that's our overall vision. We want to work with golf tour operators as well. I think that's a really interesting part of it. So whether it is that the player booking or the tour operator booking on behalf of the players for the caddies, obviously our core concept at the minute is the scheduling system for clubs and caddies. So that's what we're doing right now, and we're working with some great clubs in that. But I think by sort of the end of this year, we want to be transitioning to opening up that marketplace where golfers can go and actually book caddies on. So I think that's like our overall destination, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But
no,
we're
yeah.
we're taking steps to get there.
A quick break here at the turn to tell you more about the Therabody Theragun. I got mine last summer. It's part of my daily routine, and my body has never felt better. I use it before and after caddying, playing golf, working out, or even relief from being hunched over chasing our 1-year-old. It's so easy to use that I like to use mine while I'm watching TV. And like a lot of you, I'm traveling again soon, so I've got the Theragun Mini ready to go. Pumped about that. It's a space saver in your luggage, and the most popular one with caddies on tour, so I can't recommend it enough. All right, let's get back to the podcast. Are you familiar at all with friends of mine that operate Lions Links, Joe and Colm?
No, wouldn't be.
So here we go. Yeah, I got a great introduction for you.
Super.
Seamus introduced me to them, and
Cool.
I worked with them over the last couple summers. Nebraska, my beloved Nebraska Huskers football team, coming over to
Sweet.
Ireland in August to play against Illinois. A lot of Chicago people, a lot of Nebraska people, and I was kind of working with them to sell trips to people here in Nebraska, and got a few takers, which is great. But I'll introduce you to those guys. But
Sweet.
what I through working with them and having my one trip over there, I was able to learn about these different golf courses, and they were sending my friend and his dad and brother to up to Cairn and
Yes, of course.
Inniscrone and some of these places. I mean, what's your favorite golf course in Ireland? And then also, what's like your go-to under the radar? And I realized too,
Yeah.
a lot dictates on where you're going to go in the country.
Absolutely. Yeah, a great question actually about underrated courses because what you'll find with tourists coming across is they'll stick to the coastline. So they'll just go round from links course to links course. But there's actually some phenomenal inland courses in Ireland. So favorite links course, I'd probably have to go Raw Port Rush. It is a phenomenal golf course. You should have seen the condition it was in coming up to the British Open. It was in phenomenal shape, and they've maintained the course in that condition as well over the last few years. Um, a lot of it's a fair course as well. So if you play good golf, you'll actually get rewarded. Whereas there's some links courses that are can be quite tricky. You can lose a lot of golf balls, and your day can be less enjoyable. Favorite underrated course? There's a great course actually just outside Dublin called Woodenbridge. We call it the Augusta of Ireland. So it's almost like in a valley, a lot of pine trees right beside it. But it's just a magical course. I've played it twice. First played it when I was 15, and I shot one of my best rounds there. So I would credit that actually for my love for the game. I think once I played that, I was like, this is golf. This is why I play the sport. So definitely, I would recommend people to obviously go round the big links courses for sure. That will be like the sort of hallmark of your trip. But if you can work your way inland and play some of the parkland courses as well, like Woodenbridge. We have a Dare Manor as well, a fantastic hotel and resort with a incredible course as well. There's a course called Conqueror Wood actually, so that will be more sort of up north. Again, there's too many to name, John.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
it's a great place to play.
I love the wooden bridge nugget there. And you brought up too there, Adair Manor obviously going to be hosting the Ryder Cup
Of
in
course.
2026. And I hear it's a magical place and they put a lot of money into it and stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Open Championship though. You were there for it. You were caddying. Your club is nearby. I mean, Shane Lowry goes out and wins the thing. I mean, it was an absolute magical week for him. The people were into it. It was this unification of Northern Ireland and Ireland, which is, under the Gulf flag. It's all one country, which is great. And then his caddy, Bo, who's from, Northern Ireland.
Of
And
course.
the two team, there were so many storylines there. Just tell me a little bit about that week from your perspective.
Yeah, you mentioned Bo there. So Bo is a man from a golf club called Ardglass Golf Club. So that was actually the first club that took our platform on. So yeah, unbelievable week. I just think like the whole town of Portrush was absolutely buzzing that entire week. So I actually got back from the States. I was over in Boston before it, so I got back on Thursday. So I left whenever Portrush was pretty quiet, and I came back and like to drive to the golf course from Portrush was about an hour drive. So they had to run shuttle buses to take people in. It was so busy. But yeah, I think once people realized Shane Lowry was in contention after Saturday, I think he shot 63. The energy about the place was incredible. And then when he got the job done, it was just, you couldn't write a better script for an Irishman to win on home soil as well. And Shane Lowry, he actually won the Irish Open as an amateur back in 2008. That was his sort of original burst onto the scene. So to see him come full circle and actually get to win it, arguably the biggest championship in golf, was unbelievable to see.
Yeah, and I mean, and he's still celebrating that win. What a great
Yeah,
guy, and
I don't
his
blame him. I'd be celebrating too if I won the Open. Absolutely. I couldn't get myself
dynamite.
out of bed.
Exactly. Dude, he was out in the pubs there till like 5 a.m. And I mean, it was just what a cool scene. You mentioned earlier on your app, one of the things that you're doing that's really cool is connecting caddies with caddies, and that's something at the Caddie Network we're doing too with the Caddie Forum.
Of
I guess
course.
just tell me a little bit about that feature. One of the things that I as I was cruising around on your site last night, you've got Mike Darby on your team,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
what a great guy, Darby. And he was doing some blogging for you, still is, and uh, awesome story with Darby last year, I guess it was with
yeah,
and COVID was such a we could get into a whole COVID thing, but
yeah.
and I know that was a huge hit to everyone, but
Of
golf
course.
in Ireland really got hit hard because you guys shut down in a major way. But then Darby, a PGA Tour caddy, gets canned. He's just hanging in there. Great attitude. Gets a win with Lee Jansen in the
Yeah.
fall. So I guess just tell me about the whole connecting caddies together thing and what comes to mind.
Sure, yeah. So while I was working on the app, I thought, is there some way where we can connect caddies together to sort of share stories? And I know you guys are working on this as well to connect club caddies, and I think it's so valuable because there's so many stories to be told between people, and I think it's just fun to meet people. Like for example, Mike, like I met him well before his win with Lee Jansen. So we talked, and I think he was just laid off at that point, and he was saying, I'm wanted to work my way back to either the PGA Tour or the Champions Tour. So yeah, Mike's an awesome man, and it couldn't have happened to a better person. But yeah, I sort of just grew that organically from, like going on LinkedIn, like talking to friends and seeing who they knew, and sort of growing a pool of caddies. So we got to, I think it was over like 130, 140 caddies from different clubs, different tours around the world. And we're very much product focused at the minute because golf clubs are nagging us to create certain features. So that has not taken a back step, but we haven't had the time just to fully invest in that. But my massive passion is creating connections between club caddies for sure. So I'm interested to actually hear how you guys are approaching that as well. So is it sort of similar, just like a network between club caddies from different clubs?
Yeah, it is. It's getting the caddies on there and getting the caddies to talk to each other and stuff, but then also inviting in golfers, to
Sure.
get advice from caddies, to get the insight that you're talking about too, that when you have a caddy for your round, like these are the places to go, or you should come play our place. There's some places in the US right now that are kind of a little bit more similar to Ireland, the Bandon Dunes and the Stream Songs.
Got
Some
you.
of those places are
Yeah.
really doing well right now, and maybe it's an interesting way to integrate your app at places like that as well.
Yeah, I think Meryl mentioned sort of the potential to collaborate in that as well. So it sounds right down our street of what we're working on. Like, so that would be an awesome one for sure. And I could drag a few caddies from Ireland to get on it as well if I can.
You can drag caddies anywhere, man. We love to go. It's such a brotherhood. I guess what's the best caddy yard in Ireland? When you go around, like what or one of your favorites where you're like, man, that's a cool vibe there.
Yeah. I think Royal County Down actually, whenever I got there, they had a great little setup. So it was right beside the clubhouse, and they would have a massive caddy program as well. They'd have like sort of between 90 to 100. So it seemed like a nice little community place where they can all meet up, sort of shoot the breeze and sort of chat. But there's a lot of cool ones. One down in Lahinch Golf Club as well. I think you mentioned that was one that stood out to me as well. But yeah, you'll find all of them are pretty cool to be honest. Like it's just a place where caddies can chat and I think it's good to find out a bit more about other caddies as well because they all have their own story in life as
Yeah.
well. And it's interesting how they've ended up in this job, either be at a young guy, and you'll learn a lot from the older guys as well, sort of their experience through life. So, while I'm caddying, I'm always keen to not just chat to the players, but chat to my fellow caddies as well and find a bit more about them. It's always interesting.
You're absolutely right. People caddies come from everywhere and at different times of their life. And I always say, once a caddy, always a caddy. I mean, even if you get out of it,
Yeah,
you know what it was like. And then you
yeah,
look too at a lot of caddies, that caddy at a young age and become successful business people. And so
sure.
it just is always translating. Being on that side of the bag, dealing with people, being outside. I mean, there's so many cool aspects of the job. What's your favorite part of the job, I guess?
I think honestly, it's probably the rewarding factor whenever your player hits a great shot and you know you were responsible for that. So I had a guy, an American guy, so we have massive pot bunkers in Ireland. So they're like 5, 6 foot deep. And Americans, when they come over, they haven't seen that. They don't know how to play it.
Yeah.
So it was a complete plug lie in the bunker. And my guy asked me, how do you play a plugged bunker lie shot? And in Ireland, the way we play it is we come really steep down in the ball and just stop. So all your energy is going down into the ground, and that's just how we know to play it. So sure enough, he steps up, smacks down in it, and it pops out to about 6 inches from the hole. And just the joy in his face whenever he hit that shot was like, I think that's the little reward from caddying is just it's making your day for the player in whatever way that can be, whether it's cool insights about the place or helping them with their score. I think that's the real rewarding part of it for me.
I love that. Yeah, I mean the pot bunkers are there. I remember, and I had never caddied links golf before, and Seamus played in the Irish Open at Lahinch, and I guess it was 2019,
Yeah,
and it was awesome to have him showing me around, and
yeah,
that golf course is something else, and one of the fun parts about that place is the sheep. It's the sheep that
yeah.
are by the clubhouse,
Of
and
course.
they have a
Yeah,
sign there that says basically like, which is for history lesson, most people know this, I guess, that are golf nerds, about how the bunkers came to be originally. It's like the animals are burrowing in there for
yeah,
shelter and whatnot. And over there at Lahinch, they have a sign that says, if the sheep are out, the weather's good. If they're in here
yeah,
huddled, I wouldn't venture out there to play.
yeah. Typical Irish advice that just hunker down if there's no sheep. That's our attitude to most things. So yeah.
What's the worst weather you've ever caddied in?
Oh, you would get some days. So this was actually midsummer. I went out, and it was an American. It was two American couples actually. So I was caddying for a lady, a lovely lady. But by the time we came to the second, or I think it was the seventh hole, I came completely unprepared. So I was wearing like one layer on top and then a caddying bib, and I tried to reach for the club. I think she asked for a 7 iron, and my hands were literally frozen solid that I couldn't reach for it. So I had to use my forearms to lift the club out. And lucky enough, at that point, they sort of said, Graham, I think the weather's a bit too brutal. We're going to have to head inside. And I've never been more grateful to get off the golf course.
That's funny. What about any celebrity encounters? People come from all over, or are really
Sure.
big tips. I mean, not that
Oh,
matters,
yeah.
but you talk to some caddies say,
Here,
"Hey, here's the key to get a good tip: is you do whatever, and then the last four holes really step your game up."
sure. Yeah. You say it doesn't matter. It's nice to walk away with a bit of cash in your hand at the end of the day. You can't lie about that. But no, so in our golf club, most years the Nicholas family would come over. So they fly in to our driving range and they land in a helicopter. So they just take over the place for a day. So I think it was one of the sons one year to walk around, and that was an incredible experience. And yeah, anyone that gets the Nicholas family in their group always has a great time. So yeah, that's probably the one that stands out the most. Trying to think, I've had obviously you get your CEOs and high flyers. And it's funny, like people would be really unassuming as well. So I caddied for this guy one time, and I was asking him just about his trip. So he said he flew into Dublin, and I was like, "Oh, how was the flight?" And he said, "Yeah, it was nice in my private jet. It just could relax, put the feet up." So, and he was one of the most quiet guys. You wouldn't think that he's running like a multi-million-dollar company. So it's fun to meet characters in the game. I think that's tying back to that where I find joy in it is meeting cool characters either on the caddy side or the player side.
Yeah, there. Speaking of characters, I mean, what are some caddy nicknames? I mean, caddies have nicknames. Is there any that's come to mind there that you go out with on a regular basis, or that you've run into, in your travels?
Yeah, Yeah, in Castle Rock we have we sort of call him an Irish Fluff. So it's a big. He almost looks like Fluff the Caddy in tour. So yeah, he's a real character. He goes about with business cards for a helicopter agency that he runs as well. But yeah, there's some incredible characters. Too many to name, but you always find one in every club that is just like a complete standout character. And they're the ones you want to hire if you want to have, a really good time and have the jokes and the crack, as I said earlier
Yeah,
on. So
yeah.
you'll not find a shortage of them in Ireland.
The Irish Fluff. What's the best time of year to play golf in Ireland? And then, along the underrated side, I know the weather's, for the most part, the weather kind of stays the ranges aren't big, but what's an underrated time where people be like, oh, I'm not going to go play them, but people that are locals will be like, hey, that's actually a decent time to come play.
Yeah, a great time actually is sort of towards the middle to end of September, and we're actually starting to find that time is a little bit more popular because the weather's still hanging on to it being decent, but the amount of golfers coming across is actually less. So you'll get a little bit less footfall in the golf courses, and you're more than likely to get tee times at some of the major venues. But yeah, as I say, our good weather is probably about 7 days per year, so you have to be pretty selective as to when you actually come over. But mid September would be a great time for anyone actually thinking about coming over.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got to bring that wet weather gear.
Absolutely.
What's a course in the U.S. that you'd most like to play? And it sounds like you've been over here a couple times. It was interesting caddying out at Pebble Beach with Seamus, and we were out there. We were a couple times, and he had a nice look at it this year, actually. But he made a statement out there, and he goes, the views at Old Head would put Pebble to shame, which I was like, really, man, like this place is pretty sweet, and you're telling me that's better, but that Old Head looks really cool. I guess, is there a course in the U.S. that you're like, man, I really got to get there?
Yeah, honestly, Pebble would probably be right up there because I would love to see the American style links. But Old Head, yeah, it's unbelievable. Like if you ever look up Old Head online, you'll see these aerial view screenshots, and it looks like something that's just been photoshopped. It doesn't actually look real. So yeah, I'm trying to think any other courses in America. Yeah, I guess Bethpage Black looks pretty cool actually as well. Obviously in New York, if there's anyone looking to take me out for a little round. Yeah, I mean there's so many. I would say I would probably I just feel like a links man at heart, so I'd probably look for the links courses first. So your Bandons and your
Yeah.
Pebbles would be, and then obviously you've got like a couple of courses in Pebble, right? So you've got like Spyglass
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and Cypress Point. So I'd probably do the three of them first, and then just work my way down that coastline probably.
Absolutely. That's a great trip. And, you got a lot there in Long Island there as well, I guess. Well, we'll wrap it up here. I know you're a busy, man. You've got some more people to talk to, make the most of your trip here. But, really appreciate you taking some time out of the day. It's great to hear about Handicaddie. We're definitely going to promote it. We definitely think you got a future in the game, and I wish you all the best. So great to have you on, Graham.
Likewise, and if there's anything I can do for the Caddie network, obviously you guys are much bigger than what I am at the minute. But if there's anything that I can leverage, whether it be that the Club Caddie network as well, then I'm absolutely all for it. But yeah, John, absolute pleasure to be on, and thanks to everyone for the warm welcome to America as well. It's been phenomenal to be over here, and I'll definitely be back in the future for sure.
Well, we'll come over to Ireland too.
Oh man, you're more than welcome. Get everyone across this summer for sure. You're all
Love
welcome.
it. Thanks, Graham. Just a reminder that this Under the Strap podcast is presented by the Therabody Theragun. We'll be back soon with another podcast, so please subscribe. And in the meantime, make sure to follow the Caddie Network on all your social media channels. I'm host John Rathouz. Thank you for listening.